Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most saddest stories I've heard about a fellow exotical. I heard this story a couple years ago, and ever since I seen the pictures, this story has haunted me, and I've taken the time to do the proper research since this project is very intimate and I wanted to make sure it was done right. So I want you guys to sit back and enjoy the story of Cheslie Kryst and what led to her unfortunate and mysterious demise. So again, like with this video, I just want to say that I'm so grateful for Exoticals United because whenever I got into an altercation or some type of confrontation with someone, and maybe they didn't like me or they said things about me that I didn't like, I always assumed it was because something was maybe fundamentally wrong with me or maybe with them, or maybe there's something where we just can't hit it off. And I never once thought it was because of the way that I looked. Now, I wouldn't say like I'm not vain. I think we all have vanity, but for me personally, my vanity is not in physical beauty. It's more like my ego, my intelligence. That's how I personally measure my self-value. And sometimes that's not good because it's like a superiority complex. You feel like you're smarter than people. People have always told me like, oh, you think you're a know-it-all, da 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 da. People always told me that, and I really don't care. But so that's always how I personally measured myself when there was an altercation with someone else that didn't really like me. I never once thought that that's my microwave, you guys, sorry. But I never once thought that it was because of the way that I looked, like being an exotical and all. And when it comes to Cheslie, I feel like a lot of people say, she's so beautiful, she's so this, she's so rich. What would a girl like that have to be depressed for? And when I hear something like that, it's just like, it's insanity because sometimes the way people perceive you is not the way you perceive yourself, regardless of how many times they tell you like how beautiful you are. And it's not necessarily insecurity because you can look in a mirror and know, okay, I'm the beauty standard here, I'm not the beauty standard there, but this is where I win. And logically, it makes sense. But being self-aware does not stop mental illness. It just doesn't. And the fact that someone can say that about someone just because they find them attractive, whether you have to be depressed about, is insane. Another thing about mental illness that really gets me is when, let's say, if you see someone fall off a bike and bust a kneecap open and they're like bleeding everywhere, you're going to recognize their pain. You're going to empathize with them. If you're like a normal human being, you're going to acknowledge you are in pain. I would like to help you. What do you need? But when it's mental and your pain is internal and it hurts just as bad, if not worse, 'cause sometimes those things you just can't heal it. Um, it's harder because people don't acknowledge it. And I find that and again, if I'm speaking out of turn with this, just let me know because I haven't personally experienced this or anyone I know very closely, but I've heard things about like drug addicts and stuff where they can only be around other users if they're like using, and once they're trying to get off, they can't be around them even if no one's pressuring them to do the drug. When someone doesn't identify with you or empathize with you, it's hard to be around them. And I think that no matter how gorgeous you are, no matter how socialized you are, no matter how intelligent you are, if you genuinely feel on the inside like I am broken, like this can, like there's something not right, and people see you and they just see your accomplishments, that makes it like even worse because your pain is not being acknowledged. Where if it was anything else, if you got a paper cut or anything else, people would say, hey, I know that hurts. Do you want a Band-Aid? Here, take this antiseptic. But when it's mental, people are like, oh, you're probably just stressed. Oh, da 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 da. Especially when you're beautiful, people they brush it off. And I think more than when you're beautiful, when you're successful, people assume that they just assume, and I think when it comes to her family, people are saying, oh, she's probably just tired, she was overworking. That's not it, y'all. When you have this type of energy with you, it comes from like childhood, and it's something that you feel like it's always there. If you've ever like suffered with self-harm or anything like that, and it's always there. It's there when you're getting your trophies and your graduations and your diplomas and your accolades. It's there. It's there at the family reunion when, you want to relax and dance and have fun with everyone else, but it's there. It's always there. It's like a shadow. And a lot of people try to outrun it with work. Some people do drugs, sex, whatever. But it's always there. And you tell yourself, okay, I'll just set a new goal. And every time I set a goal, I'll make it so ridiculous, like becoming Miss USA. That'll never happen, right? And boom, it happens. And now you have no goals. Now you don't know how to, you need like a distraction. And when your distractions are successful and people get money off that, I find this with like rappers too. When they, like artists and stuff, when they go down like drugs and stuff, people won't care. Michael Jackson, people thought he had it together. And I just feel like when you're successful, people do not take your pain seriously. And it's really messed up. And I think that people always want to have pretty privilege and rich privilege, and they do not care what comes with it. So that's also something I wanted to point out as well. So our story starts April 28th, 1991 in Jackson, Michigan. This is her birthday. That makes her a Taurus, Sun, and a Scorpio moon. And if you've seen my, I think it was like a Beyonce video, but I've brought up the Scorpio moons before. Cat Williams has one, Beyonce has one, I have one. And these people, I think I said like in the Beyonce one, like people were comparing her to Rihanna and how Rihanna is more personable, and people take it as like a jab to Beyonce when she's not communicating with her fans, but they don't understand that some people, it's not about being secretive or withholding or gatekeeping. Some people are literally, they only have so much that they can take, and their little bit of privacy is the only thing keeping them from, oh my God, I was going to say like jumping off a building is like a joke, but so that's another thing with Scorpio moons. You have a really dark sense of humor. So yeah, but I heard this story. Of course, I think everyone was just completely floored. And as soon as I found out she had a Scorpio moon, and we're going to get into the spiritual aspect towards the end. So if you're not into woo-woo stuff, I'll let you know when that starts and you can click off. But right now we're just going to talk about like her story and everything. Her father was an athlete, and her mother, she did a lot of different things. But for the most part, what Cheslie really looked up to was her mother being like a pageant queen and winning Miss North Carolina. Now, I find it really funny because I'm not really into the pageant world, but I think that, that's more like okay, I worked really hard on this speech. I worked really hard, like, getting my body together. I worked really hard on my hair. Like it's more something like for the outside, you know what I mean? But I don't know. But basically, when people asked her, why did you want to be like your mom so much? She says that her mom seemed like she was in control and she was powerful and that people listened to her. And when I think pageant queen, I just don't think that. So the fact that that's what she saw and that's what she was trying to accomplish, I found that very interesting. We're going to get into some of her accolades as well. And it's also said that when Cheslie was in first grade or kindergarten, I believe, that she almost failed. Not because she wasn't like intelligent or anything. She was actually succeeding most of her classmates. It was because she was so quiet and withdrawn to where people thought, oh, maybe she can't speak or something like that. So I want you guys to keep that in mind because I know that the word like introvert, sometimes people just use that word and it kind of irks me. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely one of like my pet peeves because when you tell someone, hey, I don't want to go out this weekend, well, actually, no, I want to go home. I don't want to really go to the after party. They take it personal, not knowing that I've literally like been running my social meter and I'm out of gas. Like I can't, like I have to be with myself. And some people just don't understand that and they take it personal or they just think like you're weird. But I notice a lot of people will say that like, oh, I'm such an introvert. My circle's so small, but like they go out every weekend and they know everyone. And when you don't want to do that, or maybe you literally just can't, like you can't, like you do as much as you can and then you have to be to yourself. And there's a difference between solitude, isolation, and being an introvert or a lone wolf. You can use that as your own discretion. But some people just, I like to say, if you hear like some really good news and you choose to go out to a bar with your friends, you're an extrovert. But if you hear some good news and you just want to pour a glass of wine, watch your favorite show, eat some ice cream, like wear something really comfortable, if you have like a pet, play with your pet, and that's your day of like, yes, you're probably an introvert. And there's nothing wrong with either of those. But I make that distinction because if someone genuinely is an introvert and they're living an extroverted lifestyle, that can be a call for help. Some people can go on binges and go from bar to bar because that's just them. Like, they're social people. That's okay. But if someone that you know is an introvert, all of a sudden is like on autopilot and is saying yes to everything and wants to go here and wants to go there and never says no to anything, it's a call for help. So I'm just saying, if you have ever experienced that, if you've gone through that, that should be something that, you want to notice and ask questions and take seriously. So I also feel like she really wanted to impress her parents, and that's why she became an athlete like her father, a pageant queen like her mother, and a attorney just like her stepfather. And I think for some people that can be seen as like, wow, like that's really progressive or competitive, or maybe you're really proactive. But some people, it's more like a challenge. And I'm gonna let her explain in her own words, like when it comes to accolades and stuff like that. Because most people, when they get certain things like that, they do it for themselves, they do it for a job, whatever. But some people are doing it like just to see if they can. And once they do it, it's like, okay, now what else can I do? And when you get that accolade, you actually don't feel not bad. You just don't feel anything. You feel like, okay, I did this, now what? And like everyone else is cheering for you and like, wow, wow. You're just like, oh yeah, no big deal. And you're not doing it to be cocky. You just really feel like, I don't know, like when you go through stuff like that, it's a very specific feeling where when you say it out loud, it kind of sounds insane. But in your head, you just feel like this isn't good enough. You feel imposter syndrome. You feel like everyone thinks I'm this great person. I have all these accomplishments. I have it all together. But like, no. So, but that's just how it feels. So yeah, she basically she took on anything that she could, and sometimes even her parents and stepfather would say, "Hey, like, don't you want to like slow down? You want to go on vacation? You want to get a boyfriend?" And she's like, "What? You don't think I can handle it?" So again, it's more like a challenge than like this is a dream or an accomplishment or a goal. It's more like a challenge, and sometimes after those things, you feel empty. So I think that that's something she was dealing with for a very long time since her middle school years. And I think she got picked on a lot because she had like big teeth and brow and stuff like that, and she was nerdy. So, and one thing about with pretty privilege, the thing that kills me with this is just because you see yourself a certain way doesn't mean other people see you that way. And kids can be mean. Kids will pick on anybody they find weird, regardless if someone really thinks you're like so ugly or not or whatever. But as you get older, you sometimes you still feel like that little girl or that little boy, that little they them, whatever. That it's just you just don't feel good enough. And just because you grow into your beauty doesn't mean you grow into your confidence. It's not always the same for some people. Like some people that lose weight, they think once they lose the weight, they're going to all of a sudden have confidence. And some people it is that, like maybe if you had a baby and you just want to get back and you already have that self-esteem, but some people do not have that. So it's kind of like that. And so after all of her accomplishments in school, she became like a leader in a lot of like the after school clubs, like chess club and stuff like that. She excelled in that completely. Her teachers even had letters that they'd wrote saying that she should be in a school for the gifted and talented, but that she should also be careful and not burn out, because kids that burn out or something like that. I'm going to show you guys the letter that the teacher wrote. But Cheslie, again, she loves a challenge. Scorpio moons, we definitely love a challenge, and she wanted to raise the bar and see how far she could take it. And that's where we get into her beautiful career that we're also going to break down as well. So we're gonna fast forward from her adolescence more into like high school and entering her college era. So after she decided she really wanted to, put the pedal to the metal and push herself, she started to feel really good about herself. She became a cheerleader. Boys started liking her. Women wanted to be her friends and stuff like that. And of course, she started getting her degrees and her diplomas and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that as well. And also, I wanted to show some of her work because I remember this story, but I had no clue how successful she was and all the people she was able to interview. And I definitely want to show her legacy. So, a really cool thing is that without even studying for her SATs, which is a test that you have to take in high school, she passed with flying colors and she was qualified for multiple scholarships. And it was actually her choice to stay in high school for the experience. And I think that, after she graduated, even though she had a lot of accolades in school, she still felt sort of inadequate. And again, going back to why she became like a pageant queen for her mother, she didn't say because she was pretty or she got all the boys or anything like that, or she got to wear pretty dresses. She said because people listened to her and that she wanted that. So that's something that I find really interesting. And so she completely started taking it seriously, not just doing high school pageants or pageants and stuff in the area. She wanted to do Miss America. And she studied really hard. She learned to play piano. She stayed current with the news in case they asked her any relevant questions. And unfortunately, she was just runner up. And at that time, I think that really like hurt her because I know a lot of people would be really like happy about that and they would just try again next year. But and I'm going to take a super short story just to try to give you like a relation. And again, don't have like any like sympathy or anything. This story is super old and I'm actually glad things worked out the way that they did. But when I was young, I was really gifted. And I graduated high school when I was 16. And I could have went to college. I could have lived on campus. But for some reason, I just didn't want to do that. And I had like you can think of it like a quinceañera, but I'm not Hispanic. But like in my community, it was like kind of like upper class. So all the girls had one of those. And for that, I got to go to MAC at the mall and get my makeup done. And it was such high quality makeup that even after the dance or whatever, I still had it on. And I remember thinking it was so cute. And my mom let me wear it to school the next day and I got a lot of compliments. And I just remember thinking, I love cosmetics. So I'm 16, I'm fresh out of high school, and I want to go to cosmetology school. I was so good in class, whether it was like on the floor or because you have like practical and theory. Theory is like learning about the wattage and flat irons or how to mix chemicals when you're dyeing hair versus on the floor is actually doing hair or spa services or whatever. And I was really good at both of those. And when I went to take my state boards, I basically was like 2 points off from passing and I didn't make it the first time. And it took me years to go back to my state board to get my license reinstated. I don't work in that field anymore, but I really did it just to prove to myself. But I remember in that moment, I did not want to retake the test. It was like it was like my last shot at like making something work, and because it didn't work, I felt like nothing would work and I should just give up. It was a really hard moment for me. And because I'm so smart, people are like, oh, it's okay, you can just retake it. Some people don't pass, and other people are like, oh, well, you're so like, why didn't you pass? Like, I thought maybe you were too tired, or you shouldn't have drank this, or you should have got up early. Like, because I think that people were expecting me to pass, so they thought maybe it was my fault that I didn't. I don't know, it was like a crazy moment. But I definitely related to that part of her story. And around this time, this is where Cheslie made one of her first suicide attempts. So a lot of people feel like that had something to do with it. I feel like this was the first time, and again, there's nothing wrong with like changing your major or anything. And some people, they go into college and they're thinking want to do one thing and they decide, you know what, actually this is what's best for me. But I think this was the first time where like she felt like kind of trapped and like hopeless, and she decided to just become like a super duper good attorney. But then some bad things happen with that. You know how it is, like being a black girl or blackish whatever in corporate America. You're getting hit from like all angles. So there were a lot of racist remarks, sexist remarks, misogynistic remarks. I think after one of her first accomplishments after doing law school, I think her father had helped her get into that as well, because her stepfather was a lawyer as well. He got her into a good law firm. And people just kept saying crazy remarks to her, touching her hair, just being really rude to her. And eventually she does get back into pageantry, but I was upset that she decided to take a chance and do something else and try again. And that experience wasn't good enough for her, to the point to where she just stopped doing law completely. But luckily for her, she was able to pour herself out of that slump, and she actually ended up, how she won Miss Freshman. She actually ended up winning Miss Senior out of high school as well. She was doing really good on the track team, which was inspired by her father. She even became the captain, which is super cool. And then her mother remarried around 2015, 2005. And that was around the time she wanted to, take her eggs out of the pageant basket and start doing what her father did and go to law school. Yeah, so like a last resort. So she really did put all her eggs into the attorney basket. And if it wasn't for people's weird remarks outside of that, it was really good for her. I think that she went to some type of honors college, UCS, and at the time it was the number one honor college in America, so that was good for her as well. I believe she graduated summa cum laude from Dollar Moore in business and undergrad, and then she went to law school, and she was able to achieve a lot more accolades there as well. And yeah, there were just like a lot of weird remarks from like other women being like just weird old ladies being weird, sexist, racist, misogynistic, ageist, all of that. And I think a lot of people would tell her, like, oh, you're so young and you're in this place. You should do this. You should be in 20 under 20 or 30 under 30. And she still had that ringing of aging out of the Miss America when she was younger. And if you know about her story, about, how she ended her life, she did it like on her 30th. And a lot of people have this thing with age, and people just kept doing that to her. And I think even when she won Miss USA, when she went back, because she left the law school game, y'all. They were so mean to her. So she put her eggs back into that. And when she finally won, people were saying she's too old. She's too masculine. She has too many muscles. She's not pretty. She's not this. She's not that. It's just disgusting. And they actually made a petition to change the age and to lower the age because they thought she was too old to be Miss USA. So I think that's always like followed her, like being such a, and if you were ever the young gifted kid, but now you're like an adult and you kind of feel like stuck like with your career, you don't really know what you want to do, even though you have so much potential and you have the money to invest, you just don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So fast forward to like 2017, 2018, she's still doing pageants here and there. I think she tried to do the Miss Carolina like her mother about 3 times, and she was 27 going on 28, which is the age limit. And but at third time she was actually able to win. And she was also doing the lawyer work, but she started doing blogging about her hair. She got really famous on that. She went viral on hair tips and stuff. If you see like the younger pictures that I shared, you can see like her hair journey. And then she also again had her own clothing company because someone made a misogynistic remark saying wear a skirt next time at an event that she was at. So she created her own pantsuit line for attorneys, lawyers, or anyone who wants to give like that business office look while still feeling comfortable. Not everyone's comfortable like in a pencil skirt. So I found that really cool as well. And she would talk about her experiences, whether it be misogyny, racism, people being like weird towards her. Some people were saying like she wasn't really black. People were talking about her body, saying her body was masculine. She would say how people would just try to pet her hair and she wasn't into it. A lot of people were bullying her because they thought that she was too old to win certain things, and to the point to where she actually had like stalkers, like people confronting her in person, watching her, following her. And it got like really weird towards, the end of her life, unfortunately.
I've had random people I do not know just walk up to me and touch my hair. It makes me feel like I'm a pet, or that the hair growing out of my head is so out of the ordinary that you just absolutely had to touch it. Many courthouses in North Carolina, you cannot bring your laptop or cell phone into the courthouse unless you're an attorney. And there were many times that I would be stopped at security and I would tell security, like, look, I have my laptop and cell phone, I'm an attorney. And they would ask to see my bar card, which looks like this. But if I was accompanied by a white attorney from my law firm, we would just have to tell security that we were attorneys and they would let us in. Well, I remember once walking into a deposition, which is basically just like a formal interview of a person. So I'm a lawyer interviewing somebody on the record. And the court reporter was sitting in the room when I walked in. I think she was the only one there. And I walk in and sit down. She's like, do you know when the lawyers are getting here? Well, I'm here, so.
Oh my God, this creep is following us. Is he still following us? I don't want to shoot with him. It is so creepy and weird. We can just wait until he leaves.
Let's just start walking.
And he's gonna keep following us.
Sir, we're just trying to work.
Please don't follow us. Please don't. You are following us, and it's so rude and creepy. Just keep going with your dog. We don't need you to follow us. Because you're following us. What do you mean, why do I feel uncomfortable? Because you're following us. Keep walking then. Then why are you stopped when we're stopped? Your dog wants to go over there. Go. Leave. Please leave. Do whatever. Just leave. Because it's creepy. Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. Thank you.
Yes. Was your mom kid? And all the phones, right? It's beautiful to see good people. That's all.
Well, it's terrible to see creep. Stop following us.
I'm not following you, sister.
Okay, then stay here while we go a different way, or walk away. What a creep. Let's just go this way.
All right.
So with all of the criticism and the stalking and just flat out just rude remarks, she decided to stop practicing law, and I think that was a good choice for her. And around this time, after she had won the Miss North Carolina after trying 3 times, she wanted to finally be able to do Miss USA before she was aged out of that as well. And at this time again, she has her clothing line. She's like Insta famous, TikTok famous. She talks about like her hair, feminism, stuff like that. And she was also doing lots and lots of interviews, and getting really better at that. She did interviews for like her law. She did interviews for a lot of things. She had so many different accomplishments, and that's something that she started to do, being able to talk to people about mental health and all types of different stuff. She interviewed Rihanna, Oprah, like literally anyone you can think of, she was there. Even still, with all the dark thoughts on her mind, she stated in her article, quote, "When I graduated from college and opted to continue my studies at Wake Forest University, I decided I'd earn a law degree and an MBA at the same time. Why stop at 2 degrees when you can have 3? I joined a trial team at school and won a national championship. I competed in moot court, won essays, competitions, and earned local, regional, and national executive board positions. I nearly worked myself to death, literally, until an 8-day stint in a local hospital sparked the development of a new perspective." So she's basically saying that she indeed was suffering from high-functioning depression and a little bit of workaholicism, if you will. And I can see that people that choose to do this as a form of alleviation, other people just simply do not see the signs. And that was pretty much what everyone said after this unfortunate event, is that they almost couldn't believe it, to where people were thinking there was foul play, sacrifices, whatever. We're going to get into that as well. But a lot of people just could not believe that this, chipper, beautiful, sunny side up type girl would do something so horrific. I also want to get into another breakdown that she had when she turned 30. and she had to be hospitalized for over a week. And she was able to overcome that time, and to the point to where she wrote an entire article about it. It was 30 going on 30, and she was expressing that she felt that the world wouldn't have the same value for her as they once did because of her age, which I think a lot of women felt that way. But with all the hate she was getting online and people saying they wanted to lower the age limit because they thought she was too old, I can't imagine how heavy that must have been. So I think all of that was just weighing on her at once. So we all know that she ends up winning Miss USA along with some other beautiful Black girls. And a lot of people didn't know that when she turned 30 in like 2021, I believe that she made an article reflecting her experience on her age and how she felt that her worth in society would dwindle. And I think that was one of the signs that people see as a call for help. She goes on to say, now I enter year 30, searching for joy and purpose on my own terms, and that feels like my own sweet victory. So at this time, again, she was living in this building called the Orion, and we're going to get into that later. But she was living in this building, and she was really far from her family. She was very isolated. I know that she went on a couple trips with her full family and with her immediate family that she grew up with a little bit before she passed. Again, she was doing mostly interviews at this time because she was Miss USA. And she would interview Taraji and a lot of other celebrities. And while she was doing these interviews, they were about mental health. And it came off like she was just someone that wanted to get advice for listeners, but people didn't consider that she herself would have needed this advice. So that's definitely an interesting part of her story because she connected with so many different people. So when celebrities heard about her story, the people just really couldn't believe it, honestly. Everyone was in shock. So it's January 30th, 2022, and Cheslie is 30 years old. She leaves a letter specifically to her mother, I believe, on her computer, and she throws herself from a 27-story building. And a lot of people felt weird about it because before she had passed and wrote the letter, she made a post on Instagram saying, "May this day bring you rest and peace." And the picture was an extremely old picture that she had posted like maybe in 2017 or something, I'm not sure. And when she originally posted the picture, the caption read, "Look at that highlight, I want to show Babe that I'm lighting up his life," something like that, implying that this was a picture taken for or by a partner. And people thought that maybe that could have something to do with it. A lot of people demanded that the video footage from the whole, I don't know if it's like a hotel, like a high class building, but there's like camera footage there, and they wanted that to be released. And just under the guise of foul play for most people. And the mother was completely against it. She didn't want anyone looking into anything because she felt that she knew that her daughter did this to herself. So she didn't want anyone bringing up anything, even though a lot of people saw some things on her page that just didn't make sense, didn't add up. And, there's always the conspiracy people. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some clips about that too. So again, this was a huge tragedy for the entire community and everyone that knew her, and even people that didn't. I remember hearing about the story, and it was completely heartbroken. And I pray that she rests in peace and that her family has the strength they need to be able to move on from this. And I think her mother, again, was able to start some foundations and some scholarships in Cheslie's name. And after she passed, she left not only just a letter for her mother, but a book that she wrote that you guys can go buy. And it actually became a New York Times bestseller on her 33rd birthday. Now, speaking of that, we're about to get into the woo-woo stuff. So if you're not into that and you made it this far, this is the time to click off. But if you know anything about numerology and all that fun stuff, Illuminati, all that Knights Templar, Freemasons, all that good stuff, you'll know that 33 is a very significant number. And when I heard the building Orion, it reminded me of course, like Orion, the constellation and the story behind that. And that constellation has a connection via zodiac signs, which is Scorpio. And again, she's a Scorpio moon. And the story of that constellation has to do with an earth goddess, and she's a Taurus. So again, if you're not really into that, you wouldn't understand the connection. But those that do understand how kind of eerie that is. And the fact that she lived in a building called the Orion. And in the story, Orion is the one that kills this person. I just found that very interesting. Something else I found interesting is the city that she lived in was called Hell's Kitchen. Again, I just found that weird. And there's actually some footage of her doing, now again, to the average eye, this is just some random hand gesture. I'm sure maybe we've all done it before on accident, but to the trained eye, this is a some type of hand signal or signature or like handshake or something that people do, and it means something. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a clip of that.
Sacrifices for this video.
Sacrifices.
The Hunter. To the Greeks, this constellation was Orion, who was the mighty hunter who could kill any beast on the planet. Orion was the demigod son of Poseidon, and was said to be the handsomest man alive. He was gigantic, sometimes described as being monstrous in size. Orion usually hunted with the goddess Artemis as part of her hunting group. One day, Orion boasted that he could kill any creature on the earth. So Gaia, the earth, became enraged, and she sent a giant scorpion to kill him. That's why the constellations of Orion and Scorpio are on opposite ends of the sky, so that in the heavens they cannot continue their fight.
Now, I'm not saying I believe all that. I'm not saying I don't. But let me tell you this. I ain't going to that building no time soon. It's a big, ugly, weird building. Just how she described that giant guy. And I don't know. If you're spiritual and you're able to read through things, you'll get it. And this is why I was asking, did you guys really want the woo-woo videos and stuff? Because what I love about Ashir 7's channel is that she's able to separate the two, where I can talk realistic about finances, and then we can get all the way into the woo-woo shit, and see if we can keep up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to say God bless the family, of course. If you yourself are going through any type of emotional, mental turmoil of any sorts, make sure you reach out for help. And again, if you got to the end of this video, thank you so much and have a blessed day.